We have a big update today on the gold price and the silver price. $2,200 gold, $38 silver. Imagine, we're going to be talking about that here, guys, in the near future. But what's going to set the stage for these prices? We have some unbelievable things going on in the economy right now. The Fed is going to be forced to print money at unprecedented levels, and that will lead to unprecedented, yes, world record prices for gold and silver. What we saw last Sunday is nothing. And speaking of that, I talked to the CEO of a large online bullion dealer to get his take on what happened over the weekend. But more importantly, how did people react? Are people buying gold and silver right now? Are they selling gold and silver? I've got some good information I'll share with you in that regard as well. And what about former President Donald Trump? He said something last night which really opened my eyes up. Are people starting to wake up to just what's going on? But guys, here's the deal. Next year is going to be party time for silver and gold investors. I can feel it in the air. Now look, don't make any financial decisions based on anything I say here in the basement. I'm just giving you my take on things. I take all the information, I synthesize it, I present it to you as I see it, okay? You need to absorb all the information, run it through that supercomputer you got above your on your shoulders, okay, and come up with your own thesis. But when I look out there, I see massive need for the government, for the Fed, right? The government to stimulate and for the Fed to print. Quantitative easing, unicorn fart dust, whatever you want to call it, paper money, electronic money. There's going to be massive devaluation again of the US dollar. And we've already gone through that just in the last 3 years, right? You hear different numbers, official numbers, shadow stat numbers, but most people are saying that the inflation we've had over the last 3 years is close to 30%. And I think that's a low estimate. What do you see, right? What do you see, basement dweller, when you venture out from your basement and you go to the grocery store? Doesn't it feel like the prices on a lot of things are up 50, 60, 70%? Sure, big screen TVs, maybe they're priced, but the critical things that you need to live, food, shelter. What about housing? Are houses twice as expensive where you live? They are where I live, right? What about fuel? We know it's already going on, but let's talk about it. I'm going to shock you here. We're going to talk bubbles. I know you like bubbles. We're going to talk big bubbles and why bubbles spell big troubles for the Fed and why they spell big gains for the silver price and the gold price, okay? The first bubble we'll talk about is the stock market. The stock market is in a bubble like never, ever before. The Magnificent Seven, right? Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, whatever the other four are, who cares? They have made up like a lion's share of the gains in the S&P 500. The statistics are startling, absolutely startling. When you look at what the 7 tech stocks, their market cap, what they've done, the valuations, we've got a bubble in stock markets, not just in the United States, but most places throughout the world. When that bubble pops, if that bubble pops, or when that bubble pops, that's trouble. But what about the biggest market in the world? What is the biggest market in the world? Is the real estate market the biggest market in the world? Is the bond market the biggest market in the world? We know the bond market dwarfs the size of the stock market. Most people don't know that. Everybody talks about the stock market, maybe because it's able to have these fantastic gains. It's gambling, right? Guys, the bond market is multiple times bigger than the stock market, okay? And the bond market, everybody says, is in a bubble Still, some of that air was taken out with this rise in interest rates, but there's so much debt in the world right now. It's the bubble, mothership, bubble, double trouble bubble of all bubbles that we're ever going to see in our lifetimes. A lot of people are calling it the biggest bubble ever. Right? People, $307 trillion. The United States government alone, close to $34 trillion. And we're going to talk about what ex-President Donald Trump said about the debt levels last night, which knocked my socks off, blew my hair back, okay? People are starting to wake up. But is the bond market really the biggest market in the world? I don't know. Because the other thing that can challenge it is the real estate market. So we got a bubble in the stock market. We got a bubble in the bond market, which is 3 times bigger than the stock market. And possibly even bigger bubble of them all is real estate. Do we have a bubble in the real estate market? You know, my neighbors, it drives me crazy. You know, when I hear them talking about the houses have gone up in value. I live in a upper middle class part of St. Louis. Okay, I'm not rich, but it's a nice neighborhood. You know, we got a nice house here. I'm not complaining. Okay, houses here, this may blow you away, but in St. Louis, you can get a nice house for about $300,000. Well, you could, right? 2-3 years ago. Now, all my neighbors are like, did you hear? People are obsessed. Have you noticed that? Did you hear that house, that white house around the corner? It sold for $550,000. And I'm like, I don't care, right? I know my taxes went up, my property taxes, right? But guys, is there a bubble in residential real estate? Absolutely. It's nutty, right? It's absolutely insane. Nobody in this area can afford, I don't know who would afford to buy a $600,000 house in my neighborhood. I'm sorry. Right? It doesn't make sense. And I know in other parts, maybe you're part of the, let me ask you a question. Look at all you dwellers that came back for round 2. We don't give up, even when we have technical problems. Let me ask you, do you think specific to residential real estate, where you live, is there a bubble? I'm turning on my cap locks and I'm doing it. I'm putting my money, bubble, double, trouble, right? We got bubble, double, I can't type, double, hold on, bubble, trouble. We got a bubble. If you think Ricky's house of crap, Susie's not home, so I can say that. She hates when I say that. Ricky's house of crap. Guy, there's a guy in the chat named Ricky's house of crap. The best username ever. Anyway, are we in a bubble in real? But wait, there's more. There's more. Yes, folks. I got one more thing to offer you. Yeah, we got a bubble in the stock market. Yeah, we got a bubble in the bond market. Yes, we have a bubble in the residential real estate market, at least in my opinion. I don't know. Are you going to type it or not? Hello, Neil from Neil Hahn's Dynasty. It's a pleasure to see you. Nonetheless, we forgot about that other little elephant in the room. What about the commercial real estate market? Is there a bubble in the commercial real estate market? No, nothing to see here, right? Right? Okay, guys, I can't move around now because, we've had all these technical problems. We're going to get back to the bubbles. People were complaining, this is not turned on. See, well, you probably heard it. I have on this microphone now because there was crackling noise. Then the video doesn't work. Now I'm like a dog on a leash. I can't move. Commercial real estate. Is there a bubble in commercial real estate? Last week, we talked about here in St. Louis, Missouri, home of the Gateway Arch, downtown St. Louis, dirt pile city. I'm sorry. I hope they can fix it up. But anyway, downtown St. Louis, there's buildings that were sold, okay, in 2018. 2018, big commercial real estate buildings that were sold for like $20 million that today are being sold for like $12 million. That's a sign of things to come. Guess what? Banks loaned money on all those buildings. So yes, yeah, we got a bubble in the stock market. We got a bubble in the bond market. We got a bubble in residential real estate. And we have a bubble in commercial real estate. Okay? But wait. And when all this pops, the only thing here's the big deal, guys. The Fed is going to print like crazy. Okay? They're going to print like crazy when all this happens. That's all they can do because I had a great conversation with Rob Keents from Gold Silver Pros this morning, and he went through it all, like, the tech bubble burst, the great financial crisis. All they did was kick the can down the road. So things have grown and become more sensitive and more delicate, just like your friend here, Ron, at Ron's Basement. I'm very sensitive, very delicate. That's why I need a few more thumbs up. When we get to 100 thumbs up, I'm going to ring the bell for you 10 times. But the system is also sensitive and delicate. And they've escalated. The can, it went from being a Campbell soup can to being a big coffee can to being a 5-gallon bucket can to the can that it is today, which is like a giant, well, then it became a big 55-gallon drum, which became harder to kick. Now, when you're driving around your local municipality and you see that giant water tank they use to feed water to everybody's house, that's what it is now. They can't kick the can anymore. And they are freaking out, and they're going to have to be very aggressive and very fast in their reactions, all right? What else? But then it gets worse, because there really, truly is even more, okay? Remember, the only leg of the stool that's holding up the economy right now, right? The consumer's done. Rob Keents brought this up, and we talked about it last week. The consumer's done, okay? Welcome, all you basement dwellers. I'm glad you're here. I hope you aren't an average American, because the average American has no savings. They've maxed out their credit card, and now they're sucking money out of their 401k just to continue with this lifestyle that they have. But now it gets even worse, because now there's a massive upswing in buy now, pay later. It's the newest thing, right? Yeah, you don't have any money on your credit card. Yeah, you don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. Look, now we got buy now, pay later. It's like layaway, okay? Guess what? Are you forgetting the part pay later? But what's the one leg that was holding everything up? Jobs. And this is a big week. And it's going to have a big impact on the silver price and the gold price. And we are going to talk about ex-President Donald Trump. And we are going to talk about what this CEO told me about silver and gold sales. But what happened already this week is we got job openings numbers, and they collapsed while they went down. We'll say collapsed because we like to be a little dramatic here in the basement, but we had 8.7 million job openings reported. It was expected we would have 9.3 million job openings. Job market is dropping. Job openings are the lowest since the pandemic. That's the last leg of the stool that was holding everything up, this great jobs market. Because remember, in Bidenomics, it's a wonderful economic system as long as you don't mind having one full-time job, a side hustle, and another side hustle, right? You work 40 hours a week at your full-time job, but then at night you deliver pizza for Domino's, and on the weekends you drive for Uber. Yeah, welcome to Bidenomics. It's wonderful. And then they get to count all those jobs. Jobs are dropping. The economy is coming down. One final point, because wait, there is even more. We got on Monday, we got October factory orders, right? The basic factory order number, how much activity is going on in factories. It also dropped almost 4%. We're going to round up. It was technically 3.6%. So we got an economy. Let's review. Things get hairy. The Fed freaks because they have to. Everything's escalated. When they freak, they dilute the currency, they print, they make more unicorn fart dust, they make more fiat paper money, however you want to say it. That drives down the value of the dollar. That drives up the real value, the price, if we want to measure it in dollars, great, okay, out of silver and gold. No doubt about it. Chris, I see it. Yes, guys, we're trying to get to 31,000 subscribers. Please, thumbs up are appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe. I will put out a new piece of content every day for the rest of my life. So you, yes, you, right, the most important person here right now, I hope you know I hope you feel this as well, that you got a new friend here in Ron's Basement, and you can make friends with the other people in the chat as well. When the Fed, why would the Fed have to print? We're going to review quickly. I can do this in high speed for you. We got a bubble in the stock market. We got a bubble in the bond market. We got a bubble in residential real estate. We got a bubble in commercial real estate. We got the jobs market that is starting to fall apart. And on top of that, the real numbers we're getting from manufacturers, they're dropping as well. What do you think old Jerome's going to do? Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve. They're going to be freaking, and they're going to be freaking real soon. 2024, you're going to hear it from me. Hey guys, we got silver at $38. Hey guys, we got silver at $45. Hey guys, we got silver at $55. What are you going to do? I want you to be prepared. It's fun to talk about it, but try to have a concrete plan in place, all right? Because as fun as it may seem for us to be talking about these great numbers measured in dollars for silver, it can actually be a little stressful when it actually happens, because then you're going to have to deal with, what am I going to do? Don't do anything rash. Try your best not to react to your emotions, and I'll be there to maybe help guide you through it all. But just remember, right? I don't have a crystal ball. I don't offer financial advice. But when I hear about $38 silver, that makes me think maybe I want to get some more. If you decide to go silver shopping, gold shopping, platinum shopping, any kind of shopping, please check out our channel sponsor, Pimbex, P-I-M-B-E-X, Pimbex.com. They're an online bullion dealer, right? Throw them into the mix. That's what I always recommend. Do your own work. Do your own due diligence. I think you'll find what I found. They've got a great selection, great service, but most importantly, great prices, and even more importantly, we're doing it reverse today. You can trust them. You've got to trust, no matter who you buy your bullion from, you've got to trust them. That's paramount. That's the foundation. Then after that, make sure, do yourself a favor, make sure you're getting the most silver or gold for your money. That goes also true if you're ever going to do an IRA conversion. Talk to a number of people and do yourself a favor if you get into that IRA conversion situation. Listen to what the guys at Pimbex can do as well, because I think you'll find they can do the same thing with the IRA that they can if you're just buying retail bullion. You can maximize the amount of ounces you can get. Now, let's move on. Are things changing right now below our very feet? Right now, we're live today, right? Today is what? Is today Tuesday? No, today's Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, today is Wednesday, December 5th or 6th. I forget which one. Whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, you're with me in the basement. That's a good thing. I'm going to ring that bell in 1 second here. Okay, but are things changing? Are things percolating? That's the word we like to use. Are people waking up? And we're going to talk about that and what ex-President Donald Trump has to do with that just now. I'm going to have a drink of coffee. If you don't like to hear bells or slurping noises, I would recommend you mute your thing, because I can't mute this microphone. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm just happy. Hey, we got good video. I can see myself. I'm going to ring the bell 11 times. That's one ring of the bell for each 10 thumbs up. I really appreciate the thumbs up, guys. I appreciate the super chats and you subscribing. Let's ring that bell. Sorry for the slurping. Couple bonus rings. It's the holiday season. We're all feeling generous. Remember Costco? That was 6 weeks ago. That was a big deal, right? Costco is selling gold. Let me move my leash up. There we go. Costco. And they were selling out. I said back then, it's like a crock pot, right? When you turn on the crock pot, it's going to go for a while. It starts to percolate. People are waking up, okay? Last night, I get home from work Yeah, and I told Susie, I said, I want to see what ex-president Donald Trump has to say. He's doing a thing, I don't usually watch mainstream media. I was floored. They had a whole part of this town hall, and they were talking about the national debt. Can you believe that? And they were talking about how we could make moves to pay off the national debt, to reduce the national debt. Now, look, this is not a political show. I don't go anywhere political. All I'm reporting to you is the fact. Ex-President Donald Trump, I think it was Hannity or one of these guys. I don't watch a lot of Fox. I don't watch a lot of any of those channels, but they're talking about the national debt. They specifically brought up the fact, right, that right now we're paying $1 trillion per year. We're paying more in interest alone, just interest, right? That's like if you've got $100,000 in credit card debt, you're paying $25,000 per year just in interest. The United States government is paying $1 trillion just for nothing. They're not getting anything for that. Okay, your tax money, that's more than they pay. I think it's more than the defense. It's more than Social Security. That money, right, part of your tax money goes to pay interest. How do you feel about that? You don't get anything for that. That goes into some other guy or woman's pocket. It's insane what these people have done to our country. I'm sorry. The national debt is a big problem and one that nobody wants to talk about. And it's part of this doom loop that we're in right now, right? And we've got big, big, big trouble coming down. The Fed is going to need to print another crazy. The Walmart. Did you hear what Walmart's CEO said just recently? He's talking about deflationary forces taking hold as we move through December. Yes, the D word. Let me tell you something. All right, there is no word that causes panic. I mean, all out panic at the Fed like deflation. So let's take a step back. Walmart is our country's largest retailer. The CEO of Walmart is talking about deflation. Okay? The Fed, well, you think that those bubbles that I talked about, I'm not going to repeat them for you. Okay? You've already been here. You know them. And trouble in the economy is going to make the Fed print. The D word, deflation, we know the S word, right? But if we get real deflation, that freaks the Fed out altogether. That's the atomic bomb to the Fed. They will print like you ain't never seen before. And they'll say, we got to stop deflation. Well, why? Let me ask that question. Yeah, again, I feel like I had a leash on. I can't move around. I was talking with Rob Keents this morning. Why? We were talking, okay, I'm going to pull this all. The United States, right, our greatest advancements, our greatest years of prosperity were when we were on the gold standard, when we had silver in our money. You can't argue that fact. Since 1971, the middle class has been decimated. Welcome, right? Now families, both spouses have to work, and a lot of times they have two or three, a lot of times they sew all together, they got 5 jobs. You can't argue the fact that over since we got off the gold standard, that the quality, the real quality of life in this country has gone down the tubes. Now, if you're part of the 0.5%, if you're the richest 1 in 500 Americans, you're doing great. You're doing awesome. Your life got better. But if you're the other 499, you got a screw job. That's the fact, Jack, okay? The country did very well. The middle class did very well when our currency was tethered to silver and gold. It's kind of like this leash I got on, right? Like I can't move around. I'm stuck, right? Tethered to silver and gold. And why? Let me ask you, why? This is going to blow your mind, right? Why can't prices go down? Why, if we become more efficient as a people, right? We have new technologies that help us produce things more quickly, more effectively, more efficiently. Why can't prices go down? Why did it have to be over the last 50 years that we've had this horrible inflation, right? Or even since 1913 when the Fed came around, Why does that have to be that way? Doesn't it seem like, why don't we question that? Let me ask you that, basement dwellers. Why do prices have to go? Why does the Fed say our goal is for us to rob from you every year 2% of the value of the money that you work for? That's their goal. They want to take 2%. Why? We already pay taxes to the government. Why does the value of the money have to go down? I present that question to you, right? I present that question to you. I think we're all starting to have a lot of questions. Just a question, okay? So yeah, we get the big D word come through, deflation. Let me tell you something. You're going to see a freaky Fed like you've never seen before, and you're going to see money printing on a scale like you can only imagine. Maybe they'll use that as cover for the CBDC that they want to roll out. I don't know, right? Okay. But on top of that, we've got this spiraling out of control U.S. debt crisis. It's gone parabolic. It's going parabolic, okay? There's no other way to say it. It's math, guys. If you believe that calculators work, it's where we're headed. It's what we got going on. We're going to talk. Let's talk about silver. Let's talk about what the CEO of an online bullion dealer had to say. Okay, first, our other show sponsor, First Mining Gold. If you think it's a good idea to own some gold, if you think it's smart to own gold, right? You might be, if I don't hold it, I don't own it type person. I understand. But if you're also willing to own gold, that's, to me, right, the next best thing is owning it in the ground, owning a company that owns gold in the ground. First Mining Gold has two of the largest development projects in Canada right now, each with over 5 million ounces of gold in the ground. They're working them through the development phase. The Spring Pole project in Ontario and Du Parquet in Quebec, but they also have Cameron, Hope Brook. They own a bunch of treasury metals. They got 4 other projects that give another equivalent of 3 million ounces. They got 13 million ounces of gold in the ground. Check them out. Do your own due diligence. They got a website, www.firstmininggold.com. Let's talk about, I was curious, like with this crazy price activity that we had in gold over the weekend. Remember, guys, we got a new all-time high in gold on Sunday night. And I thought, what happened? Like, how did people react to that, right? This is Wednesday, so we've had Monday and Tuesday. I reached out to Mike, the CEO over at Pimbex, and asked him, I said, what are your observations? He said, I'm happy to share our observations. Buying was stronger last week, heading into the weekend. And this continued through Saturday and Sunday before the market opened. Retail correctly anticipated further upside in the spot price. When the market opened, there was an initial pause due to extreme market volatility. After everything settled, steady purchasing resumed, and that's carried into this week. So they haven't really seen, but there's something very interesting that he said here. They haven't seen, I would say, like a big uptick or downtick is the way I read this. He said, the most interesting takeaway is that very few customers have reached out to obtain buyback quotes. It might be a different story at local coin shops, but our retail customers are holding fast. The excitement and determination is real. So what he's telling us is sales have remained constant. However, what's interesting is people are scaling back. They're seeing a pullback in the number of people that are wanting to sell their metals back to the online bullion dealer. I thought that was very, very interesting. Guys, don't forget, I just want to remind you right now, okay, I know this is not a green energy show. I'm not an environmentalist. I don't know what to make of all that. We're not political. But here's a fact. Right now, there's a major conference going on, COP, in Dubai, where we're likely to get some big announcements about worldwide agreements about increasing green energy capacity. Some people are saying we could see a tripling of green energy capacity being put in place by the year 2030. Let me remind you, we are just days away from 2024. That would be a 6-year period, a tripling of all the green energy capacity. What does that mean? Well, that means silver investors could see an unbelievable potential demand spike for silver, in particular from the solar panel industry, which is using more and more silver. The Silver Institute just told us last year only 260 million ounces of silver. That means basically, to put that in perspective, for every 8 ounces of silver that was pulled out of the ground, and it takes a lot of work to get an ounce of silver out of the ground, okay? Massive amount of work. For every 8 of those ounces of silver that mining companies were able to pull out of the ground, 3 of them were used in solar panel manufacturing last year. And we're talking about tripling not just this year's production, but all the production that's occurred over the last number of decades. The potential is astounding. We'll see how it plays out, right? It's easy to get all excited. We need to see how it all plays out. One thing for sure, it's going to be an interesting coming couple years for the silver and gold investors and for the mining companies, as we are set up with both metals, gold and silver, to see massive potential spikes in demand. I'll be here through it all with you, right? It's choppy, right? Those of you who came back from the previous live stream that was a complete disaster, I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.